Hi and welcome to day 23 of the Lexical Lab Summer School 2018 video diary series. What I wanted to talk about today was something connected to the advanced level English Boost course I've been teaching all of this week. And it's really something that I see a lot of comments about on teachers' Facebook groups. It's something I get asked about a lot. It's something I get messages and emails about a lot. And it's how do you teach fixed expressions, or how do you teach collocations, or how do you teach phrasal verbs, how do you teach verbs with dependent prepositions. And one of the things that interests me is that people actually write asking about individual things, like, how do you teach phrasal verbs, or how do you teach verbs plus prepositions, as opposed to really just how do you teach language? Because it seems to be based on the idea that, particular areas of language, such as phrasal verbs or collocations, should somehow be taught differently to other bits of language, and that maybe, verbs plus prepositions are taught differently to phrasal verbs or whatever. And I was talking about this with Andrew yesterday after class, and one of the strange things I think is that basically, in terms of how both of us, I think, teach things, is you either have the language come up in a text or in a vocabulary exercise that you provide for students, or else the language comes up on the board as a result of one of us reformulating something students are trying to say. So you meet the bit of language that you're looking at. You could, if you wanted to, ask students to explain what they think it means, or you could just do what I think both of us do a lot of the time, which is just explain the piece of language. You try to get it on the board in some kind of whole sentence or little mini dialogue, so that students can see how the phrase or how the collocation or how the phrasal verb interacts with other words and with grammar. You might then ask some questions about it. You might then do a little bit of practice on it. And basically, once you've done that, that's it. You've taught it. Obviously, this doesn't mean students will all remember it. It certainly doesn't mean students will all start producing it. It also doesn't mean that you'll never see it again. You might want to do a little bit of revision at some point, which consciously recycles that particular item. You might want to try to include that particular item in your own teacher talk or in your subsequent board work. You might want to put it on a Quizlet set or something like that you're making for your students. But basically, in terms of how you teach things, that's it. That's all there is to it. There is no magic trick. I'll give you one quick example, okay? This morning in my class, we were looking at sort of food and talking about restaurant vocabulary. And the students were talking about places that they like to eat. And what I ended up with on the board was the following. It's got a really nice dot. The service is great. The dot are huge. It's great, blank, for money. And afterwards, I sort of stopped the group and said, okay, so let's have a look at some of the things you were trying to say. A couple of you were talking about your favourite restaurants and saying, oh, it's lovely. As soon as you walk into this restaurant, it has a good feeling, just feels like a good place to be, a good place to spend time. It's got a really nice, that's right, a really nice atmosphere. Where's the stress? That's right, atmosphere. The service is great. And when they bring you the food, there's a lot of food. You get a lot of food on the plate because the are huge. That's right, the portions are huge. It's like the opposite of a kind of nouvelle cuisine place where you order something and they bring you this little tiny piece of food like this and say, here is your dinner. That'll be 54 euros, please. In those places, the portions are tiny. So the service is great. It's got a nice atmosphere. The portions are huge. And it's a good place because you can spend not a lot of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but the quality's great. Everything's great about it. It's really good. That's right. Value for money. It's great value for money. It's really good value for money. What's the opposite? Yeah, that's right. It's a rip-off. Yeah, like you were talking about yesterday with Planet Organic, Maria. It's really good value for money. Could be for a restaurant. Anything else that you might describe as really good value for money? Why, thank you. Our English courses. Yes, I know. Anything else that you might describe as really good value for money? And then that's basically it for now. Tomorrow, when I'm doing some revision, I will probably have this sentence in one of the revision exercises. I might gap a different word. So I might put something like, it's a lovely restaurant, it's got a really nice atmosphere, the service is great, it's really good value for ... to see if they can remember that particular phrase. After that, in the end, it's down to the students. All we can do as teachers is to provide the input and provide the opportunities for the students to go away and learn that stuff. Okay, I've gone on far too long. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, interested to hear your thoughts.